Well, welcome back to Barley and Hops. I'm George. I am your humble host and servant. So if you're interested, have a question or comment, please do comment below. That really helps. But you can get in touch with me. Here's my email and here's my phone number. I've been called crazy for doing that, but the conversations that we have are very enlightening and we both learn from them. So thank you. Now, today's video is going to be on we got another home project that we're going to do. I've been working with epoxy and I've slid that in the back here. I got bottle caps on this 36-inch and I'm dropping stuff on a 36-inch table. And if you've ever worked with epoxy, you know how pernickety that can be. So once I got that laid out and I've got the epoxy poured and the bottle caps attached to it, I've got about 12 hours at a minimum, 24 for almost a full cure for 1/8 of an inch. So I've got a lot of time on my hands and I figured we'd get to making something. So we're going to make a fermenter out of this big jug. But before I get there, I've got to mention that I did a video the other day on grain, on all grain batch, and I made a boo-boo. And believe it or not, I've even answered some comments and emails and I made the same mistake again. So please forgive me because I repeated my error in math even in an email. So here's what happens, or here's what happened. I mistakenly did, it could have been fat finger rule maybe, who knows. I got 7.8 pounds of corn. 5 pounds of corn in 5 gallons of water. We know that 33 gravity points per pound in 5 gallons is going to be a total of 33 gravity points. And that's what we have here. So we had a total of 33 gravity points, but then we had 2.8 pounds left over that we had to calculate in. And I mistakenly calculated that as 1.8, which should have been 2.8. So it threw my math way off. So really what that winds up to, or that ends up at, is 2.8 pounds, which is, oh gosh, that's closer to 5 kilograms. No, it's closer to a little bit over a kilogram. That would have been 92 gravity points per gallon. So, and I did the math here. Yep. And if you divide that by 5, you get 18.4. So this should have been 18.4 and not points per gallon, but gravity points in the overall 5 gallons. So it would have been a 33 plus 18. And so that means that this figure was actually wrong as well. It's a little bit higher than that. So I'll let you do the rest of that math. But I just want to come online and say, look, I apologize. I made a big mistake. Hopefully this corrects it and you'll forgive me. It is an error of the mind, never of the heart. Okay? All right. Look, I got to thinking. I was actually thinking and said, you know, I've got this requirement that just keeps increasing and increasing every time we do these videos. But what I really didn't have, I just don't have something large enough to do a really large ferment. Now, a lot of you do. Now, what I'm going to describe here, you've probably already done this. For those of you who haven't, you get to watch it step by step, just like when we built Big Blue. But we're going to take this, it's a 50 gallon, it's marked here, 189 liters, 50 gallons. And I probably put more than that in there, but that's what it's marked as. It's a big 2.2 millimeter, like an 1/8 of an inch thick plastic container. Now I got this for nothing. I don't know, you may have to buy one, but I got this for nothing a couple years ago. It's been sitting around, the backyard. We've been kicking it around and using it for storage. It's got 2 accesses to the top. I'll show you a close-up of that in a minute. But what's interesting is that what it's stored was citric acid. Big deal. I mean, the only thing citric acid would do is lower your pH. So I got it fairly well cleaned up, but we need to be able to get to the inside of this thing. So we're going to do something really unique and we're going to build one. And so I had in my mind, I had this vision of something that I could move around that was large, that I could draw off of, that I could ferment in, that I could maintain, but it also had easy access so that I could control it, add to it, get inside, clean it out, and all those things. So most of it, I mean, came to me right away as far as access and all of that and ports. But the one thing that kept troubling me was, how do I make this thing mobile? I mean, I was going to build a stack and set it. I said, how do you lift that thing? All these challenges came. So I thought about putting it on wheels. I went, wow. So that became the next challenge. Well, I had one of these, just a hand truck, and you may recognize these hand trucks. You know, they got 3 different positions: a 45, a straight up and down 90, or you can do the flat with the end up. And this thing just happens to fit perfectly lengthwise on here. So guess what? I've already got my carrier, and I'll be able to maneuver and move that thing around wherever I need it to. Okay, a couple of other things I need to do though is I'm going to build, we'll walk through this, I'm going to build at least 2 collars, one on this end and one on the other end. Now the 2x6s, I'll cut the oval out of it to set on the bottom. It's like a half moon I'll cut out of it. Set on the bottom to set these up. What I see, because what I need to be able to do is I need to be able to tilt this at certain times, and you'll understand when we get to working with this why I'm doing. I'll tell you now. You tilt it so that all of your sediment ends up on the back corner as opposed to the bottom. Now, kind of ingenious. That way I can draw off this end and never have to worry about pulling out any sediment. Here were my options though. Now, some people would say, fill it from the top, just use it standing up just like this and put a valve in the bottom. Well, I still got to get in there to put that valve in. So I could have done that. I decided in this particular case, really because of room and because of the ease of maneuver and movement around, that I was going to make it this way. So I'll need to have an opening here that's large enough that I can at least get my hand in there, my arm, and I'm going to do that. I bought a $9 piano hinge at my local hardware store. So we're going to put a piano hinge right there. I've got myself this cost me 10 bucks, but it's a piece of 22 gauge steel, and I have to cut this to fit because I don't need this huge opening. So I'll cut this. We're going to attach that right there. We're going to put an oval bend into it so it just closes. It's going to be like a suitcase. It'll open and close. Then I got the silicone rubber seal, window seal. This is another about 8 bucks. What am I up to? Like 30, 40, almost 40 bucks. So I'll use that around the inside of this so that when I close it, I got them around here somewhere. I got those, you know, those small nuts you screw them in and they pull down. I got 2 of those, so we'll be able to close that and seal it. That's all we need to do is be able to seal it. So that's what's coming up. We're going to cut that hole out. We're going to add this, and I'm going to use rivets. Use some small rivets so that they're not too large, but they can secure enough. They need to be long enough to go through the piano hinge and the 1/8 or 2.2 millimeter plastic. So we're going to get on it here in just a minute, but hey, I did a video conference collaboration with Jesse from Stillet yesterday, and we are smoking. So Jesse's got something really special coming up for you here in the near future, so you just need to stay tuned as Jesse works on his masterpiece. He and I are getting together more often now for collaborations, and thanks to all of you who recommended that we get in touch, and we do that. And we plan to do more of that, and we also plan to do some more videos together in the future. So stay tuned, and we'll be back, and I'm going to start cutting. So there. Well, this is how far we've gotten. Got these cut, and I want to do a real quick review on the equipment or the pieces of stuff that I'm using. These are available at your local hardware store or just about anywhere. I've got a 12-inch piano hinge that I wanted to use. Of course, for my seal around the outside of that lid, I've got, oh, there we go, silicone rubber window seal. Now, of course, a lot of other things will work. Okay, this is just what I'm going to use. So let your conscience be your guide. And I've got this piece of metal. Now, if most of you understand it from our military backgrounds, is no good plan survives first contact. Remember that. Well, we've made an adjustment because I was thinking through this, and I said, metal is good, but it is difficult to work with. I'm like, why don't I just take a plastic bucket and, you know, cut a good square out of the side of that. It'll already be oval shaped, so it'll fit right on the side of that. And if necessary, I can use my heat gun and, you know, kind of warp it a little, whatever I need. So I'm going to use plastic instead. So I'm going to skip using the metal, and I'm going to go with plastic. Keep the whole thing plastic. So we're going to get into that, and I'm going to use rivets. And additionally, I've got these valves. These are large valves, and these are available on Amazon. They're available at your local brew shop, and they've got a 1-inch. There's a 1-inch hole is what this thing will fit into, and this one here is a high flow. This one here is a regular flow. The both of them are equally good. Now here's what's interesting though, see, is because the caps that go into the top of my barrel, and I've got 2 of them on opposing sides. Interestingly enough, gosh, this worked out perfect for me. This particular barrel, it has a threaded detent here. So this actually screws right into that. All I've got to do now is cut out the bottom so that I've got access inside the barrel. So guess what? That's going to become my breather for when I'm draining. It'll also become the access for fermentation. So I'll put a rubber tube on here out into a bucket, and that way I'll allow the gases to escape. Now, isn't that good? It fell right into my lap, and I'm just going to take advantage of it. And the other cap is exactly the same way, so whoops, I'll have 2. That's a good catch. I'll have 2 valves on here. I'll have one in the top for venting, and I'll have one on the bottom for draining. Look, make sure you come back, hit us on number 2 when we do our part 2 of this, when we start getting into the actual build, and we'll stick with you if you stick with us. So don't forget to comment below, subscribe, share us with your friends, and all that good stuff. Happy distilling.